Hi, I'm Nigel Driffield and I'm here today talking to Cherie Blair about the importance of equality and diversity within entrepreneurship. The social argument for promoting equality and diversity within the workplace and within entrepreneurship is obviously well understood and is clear to all. But I think what's often missed is the economic argument for promoting equality and diversity, particularly in the context of entrepreneurship and women-led firms.
I can certainly agree with that and say straight away that obviously I am a human rights lawyer, so I do think it is a matter of rights. But that, as you say, is not necessarily going to convince a hard-headed businessman as to why he needs diversity in his workforce. But the astonishing thing about the business case is over and over again, it's compelling. So we are not now at a stage where we don't know whether having a more diverse workforce works, whether it works at the lower level, at the medium management level, or right up to the boards. Statistics show that it does work. And when you talk about diverse boards, statistics show that on the bottom line matters, on return on capital, on profitability, companies which have more than a token woman on the board, because one token woman is not going to change the culture, actually consistently outperform those companies that don't have any women at all. But the astonishing thing is, if you look at the FTSE 100 companies, the pitifully low percentage, and you have a company like Associated British Food, who owns Primark, for God's sake, which is definitely, I think, a store which targets women, or Twinings Tea, and yet their board they've never had a woman on the board. There's not a single female member on the board, and as far as I can see, the criteria to be a non-executive director of that board is, if you'll forgive me, is not to have any hair.
I think a lot of the work here at Aston, for example, on high-performance teams, shows that teams perform much better if they are diverse, both in terms of gender and ethnicity.
I think that's absolutely true, and I think the other thing we have to start challenging is this culture of the alpha male. For too long, we have had this idea that the leader is the person who leads from the front, who bulldozes his way, and it is mainly his, though, I mean, there are women who are perfectly capable of bulldozing their way as well, that's for sure, but bulldozes their way through and says, this is what we're going to do, you do what I say. Now, you do need a little bit, you do need determination and drive and vision, but you also actually need a balanced team, which means that if sometimes you get carried away with your idea, they're able to say, well, hold on a minute, we also need to look at a wider perspective. And so we actually should be asking a lot more about whether the more collaborative leadership, which women seem to be good at, are at least part of what a successful company needs, if not perhaps the main part.
We did some work for the Small Business Service a few years ago, which was part of the DTI, and we were asked to look at access to finance of small businesses. And one of the things we found was that women-led businesses are 20% more likely to report difficulties in obtaining access to finance through banks.
There are still informal barriers to why it is that actually women don't get taken seriously. Sometimes it's about women's own confidence. Sometimes it's because they haven't had the skills and training to know what to do, which is why workshops like this and why my foundation concentrates on confidence building and capability building. And sometimes it's just about outdated procedures which fitted one kind of society and haven't changed to the new reality. And in the developing world, you see that most of all when banks can only lend against land, and in so many countries, women own only 1% of the title land in the world. It means if you can't put forward land as a collateral, you don't get a loan. And one of the things we've been doing is encouraging banks to look at other things like future contracts as collateral. In places like India, for example, jewelry could be a collateral. They're a valuable asset, which women, they may not own the land, but they will own their jewelry. I mean, if you just be a bit more imaginative, you can find collateral, and that's what I hope in your business school you're helping turn out imaginative business people.
I would certainly hope so. No,